So we start our discussion on politics. Last few weeks we were thinking about the law and government. Actually, politics is more connected with the government. Law is enforced by government, but politics means really government. The main question that we ask in politics is what's the purpose of government, or what government should rule people, What government, how governments are formed, what sort of government. Christianity teaches that the state is an agent of God. State is appointed and divinely appointed by God, and therefore is doing a part of God's work, only a part of God's work as to the execution of justice. But what happens often is government is not simply doing the execution or the maintenance of justice. They taken over part of God's role, Yes, they do more than that. No, we cannot permit that. Biblical Christianity recognizes the state as a God-established institution and government as a God-established, agency to execute or maintain justice. But what exactly is the political viewpoint of the Bible? That's a big question. What does the Bible say about government, about authority and all? Because Christianity believes in the depravity of man and man's moral responsibility, government is a must, because every action of man needs to be judged. Man has to show his accountability to some. If he is wrong, somebody has to punish him. If he is right, somebody has to reward him. So government is almost a must. But how much government? That is the question. What government? How much government? And we know that there are many systems in the world. There is capitalism. Capitalism often is viewed as a economical philosophy, but it is more than economical philosophy. There is communism. Again, many people think that communism is an economical philosophy. It is not. It's more than that. There is socialism. These are the three prominent systems that are in the world. Communism, socialism, and capitalism. Yes. But is there a fourth one? That's what we needed to really investigate. What does the Bible say? Yes, we are coming to monarchy, so democracy and all that thing there. Yes. So, there are different types of governments, therefore, in politics, But one thing we can understand as we study the New Testament is that the Bible calls for limited government only. Limited government, no unlimited government, because the absolute authority rests in God. If it's delegated authority, that means it's limited. Delegation has very many limitations. Delegation is only for a purpose, only to some limited extent. Absolute authority is the only one who has the complete. God has not given his absolute authority to anybody. It's a very little authority government God has given to. Therefore, what I say, limited government is the best government. Limited government is the best government. If there is no government, then that's anarchy. And if total government, that is totalitarianism. All those things are evil. Totalitarianism is evil, anarchy is evil. And less government, minimum government, that's what is best. Caesar definitely has his role, but according to biblical social and legal theory, God has appointed separate roles for the family and the church. The government can never step over family or church. Actually, there are three circles, and not one circle over the other circle. These are three circles that kind of, intersect. And so the area that intersect is the very sensible area. That's where each one should not step over the other one. But everybody has their own circle, the government, the family, the church. But what has eventually happened in the world is the government has taken over the church and the family. What the church should do and what the family should do, apparently the government has taken over and they decide. Even how many children a family should have, government decides. In China, one child policy. Who decides? Government decides. Parents don't decide. Husband and wife do not decide. God doesn't decide. It's a man decides. See, that's taking it over. And also, I don't like the idea of Muslims fasting maybe, and because all the hotels are closed and all that. But in China, in a province, they have said that fasting in the daytime. Muslims, no. It was in the newspaper that they said no. It is illegal. It's unlawful for anyone to fast in the daytime. They must eat, they must work. If you want to fast, you fast. So they could not. So government should not be interfering in the religious faith of people. Today it's the Muslims, tomorrow it's the Christians, as far as government is concerned. So, so this sort of interference, that is a total government. So Caesar has become a substitute for God. No. Jesus Christ very rightly said, give it to Caesar. What is he says? Give it to Caesar, what is he says? Give it to God what belongs to God. Man cannot avoid three things somebody said. One is death, the other is tax, and the third is government. There's a lot of truth in it. Death, tax and government. Christians believe that these three are inevitable because God has established or ordained all of them. It is appointed for man once to die. That cannot be. And taxation is, yes, definitely, because Romans 13 and many other passages commands us to pay tax. Even Jesus Christ, though he didn't have it, yet he paid. Because he said we should not make any offense. So he paid the tax. And government is also inevitable and unavoidable because man is a sinner. Even in millennium, government is there. Maybe in eternity, the present kind of government will not be there. And governance need not to be there because the sin nature is gone. So automatically man submits to God. There is no rebellion. So when there is no rebellion, there is no sin. Minimum governance is all that is needed.
What does it mean by you rule with an iron rule?
Yes, the punishment will be very severe. There is no freedom, absolutely no freedom to commit sin. In the millennium. It's in the millennium.
But there will be rebellion.
Yes, anybody who rebellion, question authority, they will be punished. Finish them up. Freedom is to do right thing. You can do all the right thing. You have plenty of food, you have good health, you have everything you need. Why you rebel? Only rebel is because they don't appreciate, this God's rule. There's a lot of people, they don't like God's rule. Even in, they don't like the idea of God, or they don't like the idea of submission and all that, authority and all that. They cannot. So there will be people who. But Bible requires all believers to submit to the government. We are to pray for the government. We are to pay for the government. And we are never to play government. No parallel government. As long as governments are functioning as per the divine design, governments are to be obeyed. The Christian expects the state to accomplish limited God-ordained task. Governments are to adhere to the principle everything has to be done decently and in order. 1 Corinthians 14, that principle applies. All things must be done decently and in order. God is systematic in all he does. Christians should participate in the process of governance as far as possible. staying within the appointed realm. In Proverbs chapter 11, verse 11, can somebody read that verse? Proverbs 11:11.
By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked.
When there is righteousness, righteous rule, a city or a nation is established. When the righteousness is rejected and morality and rebellion comes, then that city is, overthrown. So this is a principle. This is a principle. As far as possible, we must submit it to the process of governance. And we all need to understand that power always corrupts. Especially power in the hand of sinner. It corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is what happened. Hitler got absolute power. So what happened? Stalin got and Lenin got, those people got absolute power in their hand. What happened? Mao got that one. Any government, any person who gets absolute power, he can do anything he wants. He doesn't have to fear anybody. He is never going to do the good thing. He is always going to do the bad things because he is a sinner. Therefore, the best government, in politics, the best thing is give minimum power. Give minimum power. That's what in the Bible, give minimum power. God did not give the kings of the Old Testament absolute power, no. They couldn't. There was check and balance, the priest, the prophet and the king. The priest and prophet. If king does anything wrong, the prophet will be sent to rebuke the king. If the priest do something wrong, the prophets again. If the prophets do wrong, then they will be rebuked by the priest or the king. There is a check and balance. There is a check and balance. So the check and balance always keeps the power in minimum because boundaries are drawn. You cannot step over because the others will come. But now, many governments, they have almost absolute power, they think. They don't have. But they can do anything they want. All that you need is a majority, right? Absolute majority if you have. Everybody will raise their hands or press the yes button and it becomes a law. They can do anything they want. It's a great danger because if such power falls in the hands of a corrupt man, a man who does not have the fear of God, because his authority comes from God and if he doesn't acknowledge that, yes, my authority is not in myself, it's even not the people, it's God who gave the authority, therefore I must be very conscious and careful in the use of this authority. So I always say have minimum government, no maximum government. It is better for the government to share power with maximum people. Instead of centralization, it's always better to decentralize. It's always better. Well, previous governments have done something called the Panchayat Raj and all, instead of the central government using all the power, they gave it to state government, they have to give it to the Panchayat Raj really. So a good part of the decisions and governance are done at the lowest level of government, the Panchayats. Well, that's very good. That's really very good. But again, because people are sinful, but yet there is a difference. Now the Ayalkootam, whatever things they have in Kerala, the people doing a lot of things in themselves and all that things, it's very good because the abuse of authority will not be there. The abuse of authority. But if it's all concentrated in one man, we know what's happened in emergency, for example. Emergency was concentration of power in the hand of one person. He can do anything. Fundamental rights are revoked. You cannot even go to the court questioning certain things. The absolute power corrupts absolutely. And any government, that's what happened in Pakistan. The military rulers were absolute kind of monarch. They did what they want. That's what happened in Iraq. Saddam Hussein was an absolute ruler. He could do anything. Even he shot his own son-in-law. Just called him, boom, that's it. over how many? 1 million or 1 lakh? How many Kurds were, killed by him, mercilessly. So they could do. There is nobody to question. Anybody who questions, they will be shot. That sort of. So what form of government the Bible recommends is a great question. That's a great question. That's important question in politics. Definitely not dictatorship. That we know. Any system where people are represented in the governance is the ideal system. I think in the Old Testament also God did that. When Moses was concentrating a great part of the responsibility, even though the advice came from Moses' father-in-law, what was his? Decentralize. Let you make decisions that are more complicated and difficult for others. But over the 10 some, over the 100 some, over the 1,000 some, over the 10,000 some, and that way. The power should not concentrate in any one person. So the Bible represents that idea, And also they had elders among the people. Most important decision in Israel were made by the Sanhedrin. There were 70 people. Sanhedrin. The synagogue and the elders in the synagogue, there the local level decisions were made. In the temple, of course, they had a high priest and, then the father-in-law and the son-in-law high priest came, Ananias and what was the other name?
Caiaphas.
Yes, Caiaphas, they are father-in-law and son-in-law. So, they are an abuse of authority. The temple business was the family business. And Jesus questioned it. That was a problem. Jesus questioned it. So they decided that, we will destroy you. Of course, he came to die for the sin of the world. That's the divine perspective. They didn't have the divine perspective. The apostles concentrated, in the hands of the apostles, the ministry was concentrated. We know the result of that one is, they were handling the spiritual as well as the material. So they immediately realized that, even though we are apostles and all things won't go very, very smoothly. So they were forced to say that, choose from among you 7 men to whom we will give this part of the ministry. As for us, we will concentrate only on the spiritual aspect, prayer and ministry of the word. See, decentralization is the best. So the Lord has assigned in the churches a group of men called elders and a group of men called deacons. And then ministry is divided among various people according to spiritual gift. So that what then, brethren, when you come together, you have, one has psalm, one has this, then this. There is no one man who stand up and do everything. That sort of a system God does not approve. Just one man, say one man show, no. There should be somebody who is moderating things, that's true, but the elders collectively do. For each meeting they could assign, brother, you be the emceeing the meeting today. But the authority and the responsibility are divided. So it is in the nation also, that's the same way. God wanted this to be happen in the Old Testament, that's the way. Even though there was king and all, the king could not make any decision by himself. He is always surrounded by counselors. In the abundance of counselors, there is wisdom. Solomon had a lot of counselors. They were aged men who were experienced, And Solomon died, Rehoboam came and he replaced all these old men with this young blood, let young blood come in. So what was the advice given by the young blood? See that the nation was divided into two, united monarchy ended, divided monarchy came. So the advisors are very important. Again, if the advisors are not godly men, so that's dangerous. So all good kings always consulted with people before making a decision. If he made it all by himself, usually it will be a failure because he won't get the support of the other people. Without getting the support of the people, even the strong king cannot go. The army, for example, Indira was very wise. Indira has divided our forces into under 3 different heads, the Air Force, the Army and the Navy, because he thought that, what was his name?
Manekshaw.
Manekshaw. Yes. Sam Manakshaw was such a forceful man. She was even so afraid. So in a sense, it is wise, because if all the army is under one man at one moment, he may feel that
Enough is enough.
enough is enough. So he could do, but today it cannot be done. It cannot be done. So decentralization and sharing the ministry and all those things are very, 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 very good. But then the question still is there, what type of government is the best? What type of government is best? So we need to study into it a little deeper to get it. We of course will say, some will say monarchy is the best because first of all, if you have a very wise monarch, king, whatever corruption is only one man's corruption. Usually the family, the monarchy is, royal family, from family to family. So if they already amassed property in one generation, then enough. So the next generations, there is no very much corruption and all that. Well, nothing wrong. Our Lord is going to rule the world, that way. He is not a democrat. Millennial rule will be by one man rule, basically. It's a Lord's kingdom ruled by David. Yes, but it's not too many. There will be many other ministers and all that, but yet it is basically monarchy. That's the ideal form when the ideal man rules. The problem is, where is the ideal man today? Where is the ideal man? The British kingdom has ruled for so long. They have had good kings and all that, but how even that one was corrupt. And the story of the England, you will study that the Magna Carta and the French Revolution then came, and all these revolutions where people were tired of one man ruling, because often he became a despot and he did just what we wanted, and people were sick and tired of it. So monarchy today is gone. There is what country is there today ruled by a king? Jordan, King Hussein was there. Now I don't know who is there. Then who are the? There are a couple of countries.
Sultan of Brunei.
Sultan of Brunei. Yes, there are some. Very few countries that are ruled purely by a king. Even though there is a figurative head like in Britain, the power is not there. Power is not.
Gulf countries. Saudi.
Yeah, the Gulf countries all have yes, royal family. They are nothing royal with it. They were pirates. And they were honestly pirates. When piracy was no more, they have amassed, and so they had the weapons and the pirates, so they have, assumed. And then oil was found out and they became very rich and all that thing. But they are not royal family, there is no royal blood in them. I guess the word royal should be avoided. They are, you can say that they are, one man rule. There is, but that's what they claim to be. Okay. Let that be there. Let that be there. Very few dictators today, because dictatorship is hated by people everywhere. John Adams, the President of America during 1797 through 1801 said, this is a statement quoted by him, our constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. Our constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. When the people are not moral and religious, their constitution is good for nothing. That's what happened there. Everything that is said in the constitution, even though it is there, either by amendments they changed it a lot, but the court has taken away prayer, Bible reading, so many things. Today you can read Ramayana or you can say, chant Om Om on anywhere in America. But you cannot say, praise the Lord. No, that's, violation of your freedom of speech and, all that things, because you hurt the other's feelings when you say. But you say, Om, Om, nobody's feeling is hurt. And, so it's all the abuse. So he was very correct to say that the constitution was made only for a more religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other. John Adams was right. The American Constitution is inadequate for governing any other kind of people. If it's a moral and religious people, this Constitution is good. And so we have a problem, That's the most powerful nation. The most powerful man has said that their constitution is good only for when people are good. And that's very true. When people are bad, it's only power. And especially some people understand only one language, that's the language of the power. There are certain religions, certain people like that, You cannot give them any advice, no love is there, love is considered weakness, meekness is weakness there, all these things. The only thing there is power. If you can make the other to sit and bow down because of your power and force, then they will respect it. So that's why some people say that, we love Hitler. Because Hitler had power. We like Stalin. Stalin had power. We love Mao. He had power. But we don't like Jesus Christ. The poor fellow on the cross was crying. Why I'm forsaken? Forsaken by God, forsaken by people, everybody. All that he had is 2-3 women standing at the bottom of the cross. Nobody else. Asked for a drop of water when there was nobody to give it. Who will follow that person? They are asking. Of course, they don't understand that, why he was there. And he has defeated Satan, he has defeated death, he has defeated sin. So the basic problems of the world he has defeated, and he is victorious over death and hell and all that. That's real victory. They don't understand it. They look only the Jesus who is hanging on the cross. They have to also to see the Jesus who rose from the dead. So some people, they say power. So they say that we would rather worship Judas Iscariot who betrayed Jesus and made some money rather than Jesus, who was betrayed. Well, when we have people like Judas and people like Hitler and people like these people, godly constitution won't do very much. They understand only, power, the language of power. So how true is that statement? Government needs to know for whom their constitution is written. That's the problem. Our constitution written by Dr. Ambedkar, a great man, a very learned man, he has followed the British pattern and all, but British pattern, British people were more gentlemen really, They were gentlemen, that's why they packed up and gone. If it was Hitler, you think they will go? If Germany was ruling India? It would have been another story. So when we copied their constitution and we find that, a lot of things are not working properly. Lot of things are not working properly. Constitution is excellent. But it must be for a people who he knows what are the provisions of our constitution, our government. So because governments are constituted by people who tended to misuse authority, the political leaders who are chosen in democracy, of course the people who are chosen, they represent the people. So 10 thieves voted to elect a thief. So such 100 thieves are elected, they come and they are making laws and they are making rules. What will be the result? Even if they wanted to practice charity and truthfulness, end up doing what? Some thievery and some robbery. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. Every year our budget is so huge. But you ask, where does the money end up? A good part of the money end up in the hands of thugs and, all these mafias and all that. We needed to bring law to say that those who are convicted of murder and other serious, offences cannot be running for parliament. Think of a nation where you have to make a law like that. And, what was that man? So he had to sit for satyagraha and all that thing. So much. Then they came the Hum party and Aam Aadmi party, and what happened? Because the sinners playing saints game ended up only in sinners game. That's what I say. A bunch of sinners are playing the saints game. But what happened? Eventually they will show their sin nature.